I start reading at some point. Language is not natural. What do I mean? Not with all of the rules and exceptions and grammatical correctness and the rules of grammar. I before E, except C, unless it's followed by a Y, unless it's a third Tuesday of the month, and then what you give your firstborn over to the, whatever the ridiculous rules are, so that you remember the quirkiness of the vowels, essentially. Uh, Basically, it's what it is. The consonants kind of speak for themselves. It's when the language has turned a vowel, which is just an accent, it's just an emotional, expression in between the consonants. Um, and so it's when the language has turned a vowel into a consonant as a definite letter, a solid letter, that the language has all these problems. All language have this problem. High frequency activity moves logic. I've said this before. High frequency activity moves logic, reasoning, rationalizing, deliberation into the vertical column. Techniques necessitating narrowing down the field of that which it is not. So as you get logically more and more narrow, and you go up a higher frequency, you scoot in the sides of it, the parameters of what it is, and you narrow down what a logical thing is, without the interference of the emotional intuitive side getting in the way. Mouth noises are fairly common among mammals. Birds, a lot of whales have noises that they send out. We humans use noises to express a wide range of intentions and emotions and logical expressions. Intonation, or how something is said, is more important to heart-to-heart communication. The phoneme is the most basic unit of sound. Birds chirping create a phoneme. Right? The birds understand what the language is. You may not, but the birds understand it very well. Right? And other animals do. They listen, and different types of birds will understand the calls of them and know when another type of bird is in the area that they should beware of, right? Hawk, for example, and a lot of the predatory birds give off a screeching to help locate prey. It's like sonar, essentially. Bats have it, right? This sound, using sound in different ways to locate things, right? It is a phoneme because it is the smallest unit of sound that's used to communicate. Phonics is the system of sounding it out. Phonemes, a phoneme, is strung together to form complex vibrations of sounds in roughly intelligent assemblages. This is the system of converting sound into a written language, phonics. Phonics is converting a sound into a written language. And this was, and the people who are, at the core of this are, of course, the Phoenicians, who were world travelers and traders and accountants in stuff. They're seafaring nation, the Phoenicians. They were travelers. They have big, huge boats, all of this stuff. And they were, I wouldn't call them conquerors so much as traders and merchants. I don't know how much they conquered, but I know that they certainly had a good business. They had an empire based on trading all over the world. Right. So as a means of keeping track of all of the stuff that they have from all over the world, they developed phonics, the system of phonics, which was taking a sound and breaking into some type of, letter notation. Simple, fairly. In theory, it's fairly simple. Who the Phoenicians were and how we get phonetics, a phonetic language. ASL, American Sign Language, is the de facto standard for hand gesture-based language. There's other sign languages, but as far as I know, ASL is the de facto standard. I'm pretty sure it's around the world, but I certainly here in America, it's a de facto standard. So there is an organization, the Meru Foundation, spelled that way, MERU. Stan, I'm trying to remember the guy's name, Stan something. And I was introduced to them on the Art Bell show when it was Coast to Coast. Uh, and he gave a wonderful explanation from his studies of Hebrew, where where he's claiming, he's stating, and I believe this, that Hebrew was originally a spoken language. It was transmitted through hand signals and song. The song and dance is, like the hand gestures, hand signals, right? So he's saying that Stan from Meru is saying that the Hebrew language, the written language, is a visual representation of, on paper or on flat surface, representation of hand gestures. Okay. And he has a book that shows you, and he has a diagram of how to actually hand sign the Hebrew language, which is fascinating. And to me, I think you'll get more out of your communication with God, your prayer life, communicated by hand as well as by mouth, than just by sitting there and, doing that. So, my humble view. The Meru Foundation proposes that sign language, the early Hebrew sign language, and a physical manifestation of the body language is able to convey complex meaning. Humans possess such a thing as muscle memory. This is where the body itself is able to perform tasks simply from a stored memory of the cellular network of the genes. The genes themselves are storers of information. Your genes the genetics, your DNA is a code that stores information. It stores a lot more information than people believe or they understand or they want to see. Right? It's commonly thought that, the biggest part of who you are that's most important is your expression of the I am and your will. But no, how to unlock the inherent knowledge of your DNA. This is 93% of the experience down here. Or more. It's more than that. The experience down here, and yet we ignore it. We shit on it. We pretend it doesn't happen. Oh, it's not a thing. That's where the intuitive side comes from. That's where collective consciousness comes from. The 93 plus part of the genetics that we all share as organic beings on this planet. So your cells, the cellular, that's a motherfucker word. That is a shitty word to have to wrap your fucking head around. Sorry, right? I apologize for having to use that. I apologize to myself for having to have my lips form this god awful fucking word. Cellular memory is inherent in. They're essentially proteins and sugars, but they're arranged in such a way that they form a code, a incipient code of you that allows you to be alive on the planet as a being, as an independent being. Otherwise, as a spirit, you're infinite, right? The life force that is you, that inhabits the body, is infinite, and it is not contained. You otherwise need to be ingrained into the life of the DNA itself in order for you to be attached to life on this planet. Otherwise, once the life of the body itself dissolves, the inherent stick togetherness of the bonds, stickiness of the bonds, when that loosens, because it's the life of the bonds themselves, the light is no more, then the bonds break and your vessel is released. It's just starts dissolving, and your spirit is allowed to release from that, and you are allowed to be free from the restraints of the body, and the life that you would otherwise know is no more, and you are released and you're free to leave the body, right? And this is for most people a horrifying, absolutely horrifying thought of being released from the body as a gift, as a genuine, true gift to you for having served in the body. But that's, I mean, that's how I look at it. You're serving here, the mission, the earth mission. I finally get to be released from the container of the body. And that's what happened. Before that, while you have, the attachment of the genes together as a coherent code, there is a intelligence to that. There's a muscle memory that comes from your genetic line. The 93% of you that's not you. That is us. But it's specific to your family lineage or you as a soul, right? Here on earth. You have a genetic that comes from being embedded in the life matrix of the planet. Right? So, as part of that, you have a muscle memory, a cellular inactivity that is able to happen, your birthright here as a human, if you consciously will, turn it on. You have to believe it's there. You have to know it's there. You have to want it to turn on. You have to, give your will of that to turn on. And you do that through your actions, your independent actions in such things as prayer, of being better than you were yesterday, of consciously, intentionally being better. Not even of the next person next to you. You don't know what they're doing or how they're doing. You can't compare yourself to them, but you compare yourself to how you were yesterday or a couple minutes ago, or even what you've learned over the course of the day or an hour or whatever. And that's what is the difference. That's the only thing that's the difference. Of what have you learned? How have you not slept? And even the things that you believe you think you're confident in, questioning those, right? How sure are you in what you know? Are you not able to take in new information as it's coming along? Because lots of new information is coming up every day. And you can, even being, like awakened, still kind of be in a woozy, dreamy land, right? Or be so vertically uptight and upright that you're not able to see anything around you. Right? So, oh, I'm so smart, I'm so logical, I'm so high frequency. Like that's a thing. There can be negative high frequencies. There can be a high negative frequency, right? That does happen. It's all relative. You expressing your will individually is what makes you a unique, different individual person, and not for the fact that you have, some great job or, like you have a lot of money or anything that belongs to the earth. Anything that you make your identity of that's not of a decision, just my decision. That's it. That's all I have. If it's any material thing you're basing your self worth off of, you can kiss that goodbye because it's not yours. It's all part of the earth. Just like your body, right? Just like your physical form belongs to the planet, right? The junk they call about 97% of you, 96% of you, they call junk DNA, right? So all of that, the junk DNA part of you, that belongs to the planet. The 3% of you or 4% of you that is able to make an individual decision, that is what makes you unique. That's what makes you worth anything. That's what makes you valuable. That is what is so special and wonderful about you, is just the moment by moment decision you make be better than you were yesterday because you learned. You learned something. You learned something. You learned something valuable. You paid attention to someone and you learned something. You paid attention to a situation and you acted a little differently than you did the day before. The ability to make a better decision than you did before, where does that come from? Right? But that is what free will is, and that's what makes any of this worthwhile, is out of the 97% that it's of inertia that it's not ever going to change, you spent 3% of you just to make a better decision And this is my humble opinion. And that's what the muscle memory is. That the most of it, is the inertia. Yet, there's a flip side to that, right? There's a flip side to that. That there is a inherent memory of the muscle that works both ways. That keeps you intact, but that also is a skill set that you can dive into. You can examine. You can evaluate, because it's within you. It's within yourself, your heartbeat, who you are. And again, I just kind of said this again. 93% plus of what makes you you is what is shared by all organic life on the planet. Dance, movement, non-hand gestures, and a hand gesture is a mudra. Okay, like so. This, when I'm meditating, I do. Can you see that? All right. So I do this. I have my hands like that. Right? So what that is it's a. I have it usually on my lap, and that is it's symbolic. It's a hand gesture, a certain specific hand gesture that is symbolic of me saying I'm a vessel. Okay, so when I have this out, when I'm meditating or at a meeting or something, just with people, or I'm meditating, I will have that there as I'm a vessel, and it is my, other people pray like that. I know what that means. I don't do that. I don't. That doesn't mean anything enough to me to do that. Yeah, the I am a vessel, that means a lot more to me, and it means I'm able to hold what you're saying. This means I've closed it out, right? This is I'm looking upward to God, upward and just forever forward progression, whatever it means to you, it means to you. However, the I am a vessel is symbolic that I am, round. It's, like that. It's all a circle. It's a loop. It's moving forward this direction and not the vertical column, right? And because me in my own personal communication with God, I can be that way. I can be, progressing on the vertical channel because I already have a concept of higher power, and it's not a human based concept. For all things spiritual, relative to this planet, relative to here, all things spiritual relate to this direction, right? God is in the next person. Right? God may or may not exist in the next person, but I can't deny that the potential of God existing, 97% of your junk DNA is God. I can't preclude that from happening in the other person. I do my best to dismiss their free will decisions that work against them and against me, and I will kind of distance myself from people's free will decisions. Yet, what's most important for me is moving in the horizontal channel and just to disperse God in the magnetic channel, which is the unity among all of us, that we are all the same. We're 97% the same. The planet, a fruit fly, a Gambian fruit bat, shrew, a jellyfish, that the planet, all of it, right? And it's in me communicating laterally, magnetically, with the 97% that is all of us, is where I find God. And that's where I transmit and transmute God. And that is, these are the omnidirectional waves. These are not high frequency. These are lowering the brain state, lowering the brain wave to be essentially the lowest that I can get them at without the electric side wanting to kick in and make it more fun with something I personally like, all right, to complicate it in some way with something that tickles my ears. A hard part getting past in the spiritual realm of this, of understanding this, is understanding technically what's tickling your ears. That's not of substance, but that's just kind of a feel good tickle to the ears. And a lot of that is the vertical column kind of kicking in, the electric side activity, tickling something in the fantasy department of the head, essentially. This tends to be the lower vibration, like I said. It's heart centered. The feeling magnetic side is heart centered activity. Song, intonation, the nice things people say connects us emotionally in a way that language does not. There's multiple layers or levels of intention involved in auditorily, or through sound transmit ideas. And let me just say this, right? There is a feel good factor to ascension energies, to 5D gamma, okay? But these are scientific terms, right? And you need that degree of vertical blip, the electric side, the complexification side of it, to kind of wrap your head around it. And yet those phrases are used as feel good gestures, like with the intention of like the clickbait, right? Or feel good gestures, or they're just buzzwords that are used to kind of reel you in, right? And if you hear a technical word enough times, you feel that you have a meaning. My neighbors just got home. If you say, this is how the brain works. That if a person says a word enough times and familiarity with it, they believe they understand what the word means. And you just need to give people a little kind of poke and prod with some keywords, other words, to just kind of weave it in, and the imagination, being what it is, will fill in the rest. And if you ask a person, well, what does that mean? They say, well, it means a bit, and they give some general explanation of what would otherwise be a very technical phrase or a very technical word or concept. It just becomes shitified through the rhetoric and batting it around like a badminton, right? The little birdie, the shuttlecock, right? And that's what the word becomes. It just gets battered back and forth, and people have this sort of feel good rhetoric idea behind it that they don't want it challenged. They can't have it challenged because they don't know what it means. And if you ask them, do you know what it means? They call you awful, horrible things because you're shitting on their feel good rhetoric. Right? Well, who are you to challenge this? Right? You know what it means. You're a smart guy. Why don't you tell us? Right? They don't need to know what it means. It fills a placeholder in the head and the thinking part, the electric side. It's just the dimensions, the imagination's invisible anyway. So if it doesn't have anything technical associated with it, that's all the better. There's nothing technical to get in the way. And again, I have the 3 years experience with the Schumann resonances to see this, and my guides, I meditate not to help me find God. I meditate to help me, for my guides to help me deal with and interact with humans. Right? I meditate not to find God, but to help me find humans and to find a reason to communicate with any of them. Right? This is why I ask, please, God, give me some reason of why I should talk with any human. Right? So this is why, please help me to want to talk with someone in their language. I don't get a lot of satisfaction out of talking in a language that isn't my own. I mean, I use human English because you guys need it, right? But it's not my language. I'm very confused at having to use English. And just because I've been college educated and I have a bunch of words that I know what they mean, doesn't mean I know how to communicate with anyone. I just humbly offer you that. I'm pretty sure my best. I'm not well at communicating people with what's important for you. I have my skill set of, I'm doing this because I'm explaining technically how this works, but I'm incompetent, fairly incompetent talking with people. Right? Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be alone. I would have some. So I mean, if right, if you're a foreigner in a foreign land and you're speaking a foreign people's language, yes, there is a part of this where you communicate with people, and the satisfaction of getting your groceries, like, of being able to, of like not being totally ignored. Like, there is a satisfaction of just having a warm body next to you, right? Okay. Not being completely 100% alone, all right? Um, Yet, is there a joy to talking, right? Are there people that are enjoyable to talk to? Uh, I'm That's not for me to say, right? It's not for me to say that there are people that are really truly enjoyable to talk to, right? Not starving is enjoyable, right? So there is a level of joy, enjoyment to this that comes with not starving, right? So I accept that. And the one or few people that have gotten something out of what I say, the extremely technical stuff, like yay, there's a joy when you have gotten your goal, when you have learned what you've wanted to know. Yeah, like, yes, there is a joy to that. Right? I mean, I'm working with this. But what I find mostly is there's a monotone that happens with people where it's no longer an expression of them personally and their emotion. There's a conditioning that happens to people, that the emotional state gets conditioned out of them, out of humans, out of us, through this process of what I'm saying, right? There's, in order for the technical explanation to give, there isn't a song and dance. There isn't a human side of it. It's just a mechanized part of this that is, to me, kind of comforting, because I don't have the guesswork of having to guess what people are saying. They really mean, and having to get through the layers of the rhetoric and the language. And I mean, as a person here talking with people, there's a magnetics that happen. There's a funness to it. There's what I would like things to be fun because that's what I want. And yet, with the technical side of this, it's fun for its own sake. It's fun just to learn how it works, right? Yet this stuff is boring to people, and they're lost, right? On how do I make this fun? It's like mathematics. That's the mathematician. It's fun to them, statistics. How do you make them fun to someone that who's not a statistician? There's a certain monotone necessary for technical explanations that puts other people to sleep, right? And it's the other technician that can get in there and you stop them and hold on, let's kind of draw this out. And we deal with the technicians not in a monotone, as in I'm explaining this to you like this, but from a different attitude. And whoa, slow down, let me see if I got this. And whoa, and working with the other technician through the process, and it's exciting to us. So we have a great life and love that comes from learning this just for the sake of learning it, that doesn't get conveyed to the end user, to the consumer, to the other person, to the observer, to the one that's listening. And this is the process that makes it difficult for the technician to explain in real world terms to the person of how these technical things work. Gesture is a visual experience intended to convey a physical meaning from one person to another. Words, talking language, can be a gesture, such as the perfunctory, how you doing? Right? With the head, how you doing? And that's what usually the gesture, there's some physical thing that may also be in the attitude or how it's, like my mom said, not what you say, it's how you say it. So the attitude of it being forceful, how you doing? It's all within the context, but this is part of the gesture of the language, gesture of the rhetoric of it being more important what you're said what you're saying rather than the particular phrase itself, rather than the phonemes, the phony of how you doing, how you doing, how ya doing, how are you doing, how ya yeah doing. These are all, I don't know what you mean by it. Literally, that phrase, how you doing? I have no idea what that means. People ask me that, and I've given them a wide range of things. When people ask me that, how you doing? I say, never better. It depends on whether I'm giving you back a gesture, whether I'm giving you back a meaning, whether I'm giving you back rhetoric, whether I'm giving you back a defensive mechanism, whether I'm giving you back, I literally don't know what you're saying. What are you asking? I've said people that, how you doing? What are you asking? Right? How? Do you want to know literally how I'm doing? Because I have no idea what that means. How would be living in the moment. How am I doing? I'm living in the moment. Right? That's the only proper answer to that. Right? It's a good enough answer. That's fine. However, most people don't really want to know that. They don't literally want to know, how are you doing? Next time someone asks you that, how are you doing? Ask, are you asking me that or telling me? Right? Try and have a conversation about what are you doing? How are you doing, rather? Right? Just answer that question. How are you doing? How are you doing? Right? Answer literally. And if they walk away, no, come here, come here. You asked me how I'm doing. Oh, I didn't mean it, right? Oh, you're just saying that. You're not really asking it. Right? I can be a good pretender. I'm an actor. I can pretend it's all right. I'm fine. No reason at all I ever have to sweat anything is anyone is ever saying at me. There's no reason I ever need to accept that anything that anyone's saying means anything to me. Most things that people say don't mean anything to me. And I can accept that. I can accept how you doing as one more meaningless, useless thing that people will say to me. Right? I accept that most of what people say to me doesn't have a meaning to me. It has more of a meaning from the person than it does to me. Right? And please, you think I'm a dick? Put that in the comments, right? Let me know what you really truly think of me. Right? Don't hold back, right? Because I already have given my opinions on the humans and my part in this, right? And that's how I'm doing. That I really don't know. And I've told people that. I don't know. How you doing? I don't know. I have no idea. Oh, you don't know how you're doing? What are you asking? What are you really asking me? How I'm doing? Right? Or are you just saying that? Right? Or does it not matter? Or are you just throwing something out? You don't care? You don't want to talk? Why are you even talking to me? Why are you even saying anything? Why are you wasting your words with me? I don't know. Is it up for me to have to figure out literally what someone is saying? This is part of the fun that people have of getting tangled up in each other's words so that you can kind of make some point, make some meaning, right? This is why we do this with each other, is you make some meaning in what the other person is saying, right? There isn't an otherwise meaning, greater meaning in this other than what you make of the meaning at the time. And this is how people are. There's not any greater meaning to this than whatever you invent at the moment, right? To me, this is pointless. I don't find this fun in any way. This is, like this is figuring it out on the spot. Like, I always guess wrong. That's the problem. I can't guess right. I just don't guess right. Continuously can't figure out what you have to be here. You have to have been here for multiple lifetimes. We're 26,000 years into this last cycle. Okay. So a lot of people probably have been here for the 26,000 years. They just intuitively know, they know it, right? But for someone who's new here, a visitor, this is my first time here, all of this is new and it's kind of scary. And in some cases, it's outright terrifying of having to figure out what people mean and not worry about getting beat up or hit or punched or, yelled at or spoken to or some other defensive mechanism, triggering some other defensive mechanism by a human.